Hey everyone, Movie Lover Warren 20 here in my DVD library, and then some of the stuff you notice is a little empty, but that's because I'm remaking a video I once did. I did a horror DVD collection back in around October 2020. Now that I got a few new horror films to my collection, added a few of them, found some at thrift shops, found some at Walmarts. I'm going to be remaking the video with all my new stuff added. It's going to be kind of a few-parter one. So, that being said, since my horror lists are getting me more subscribers, thought I'd do a horror DVD collection remake. Alright, so, to start things off with a new horror film I got, Possessor Uncut. I haven't unwrapped this one yet, but I remember last time I watched this movie was in the theater. It was very brutal. It was very brutal, violent, even very bizarre, even very disturbing. From director Brad Cronenberg. It felt like those David Cronenberg movies, so that was pretty nice. And yeah, a Canadian-made film. And I also added The Skeleton Key. For a PG-13 horror movie, this movie is actually pretty violent. It's actually one of the few good PG-13 horror movies. I think it's very underappreciated. I wish it got a little more appreciation, but it's one of Kate Hudson's better movies. So, yeah, and then got Dead Silence. I remember last time I rewatched this movie was in high school. I have yet to rewatch it, but I do remember it's from writer and director of Saw, definitely among James Wan. I love James Wan, guys. He's a great director. Love anything he does. We got a double feature of The Strangers and The Hitcher remake. I have not seen The Hitcher remake, but I have seen The Strangers. That was probably the only good horror movie, 2008. Very scary, very well shot. Even the sequel, I saw the second one in the theaters, and I wasn't really a big fan of it, but thought it was still pretty okay for what it was. And then here's Us, which I also actually did like. Saw this one in theaters opening nights, and it wasn't really as good as Get Out, per se, but I thought it was still a pretty good movie for what it was. So, and one that I just recently watched, Bug, from William Friedkin, director of The Exorcist. I wouldn't really call this a horror movie, per se, kind of more of a psychological thriller, but Lionsgate kind of marketed this movie as a horror film, so there's that. And then, of course, Cabin Fever, which I absolutely loved. It's probably Eli Roth's second best movie. I'm gonna get to his actual best, I think is his best movie in a little bit. But yeah, this bonus feature comes with a family-friendly version, which is probably just a 3-minute edit. But anyway, I consider this film a very decent, good throwback to all those zombie thrillers, and I even love Eli Roth, what he does. He's not a to be taken seriously director. Anything he does is never supposed to be taken seriously, so definitely got to keep that in mind. Cities Chapter 2. I own the first one as well, but I couldn't find it really anywhere, so I just wanted this video made, but I own both the first two. First two are kind of the only ones I actually don't mind, because at least they're the James Wan directed ones. But this one, yeah, saw this movie opening night in the theater. Probably this was the first horror movie I saw in the theaters, guys. So, that's kind of awesome. You've seen this one millions of times. I Spit Under Grave, the 2010 remake. I don't own 2, and I don't own I Spit Under Grave Vengeance Is Mine because they're absolute pieces of shit. Friday the 13th, the 8-movie collection. This movie has 1, 2, 3, 4, Final Chapter, New Beginning, Jason Lives, New Blood, and Jason Takes Manhattan. These are for the Paramount movies, guys. Jason Goes to Hell doesn't really come with this collection. Jason Goes to Hell is impossible to find, anywhere. Hills Have Eyes remake, 2006 remake. Seen this DVD millions of times in my other videos. And now these are going to be 3 shown all at once. Halloween the original, Halloween 2007 reboot, the bigger, aka the piece of shit reboot, and the 2018 sequel. Well, okay, can I find the Blu-ray in there? Oh yeah, and of course the Blu-ray for the sequel to the original 1978 Halloween. Okay. These three I thought were good. This one was pretty bad, I gotta say. Like, the theatrical cut I find better. Like, I watched the director's cut, and I hate the director's cut even more than this one. Although to be fair, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is a bigger piece of shit compared to this movie. I will say that. At least this one tries to be a Michael Myers movie. Halloween 2 is barely either of that stuff. And Frozen 2010. Probably another great Adam Green movie, since he's the director of Hatchet. One of my favorite horror series. I gotta say, very good intense thriller, I gotta say. And I mean, YMS kind of bashed in his video, but I don't think it's too bad as he claims it to be. Yeah, I'll show that one later. It's 2017 movie, and It Chapter 2, the disappointing sequel. First one was pretty good. This one wasn't really bad, but it was very, very disappointing. Saw both of these in the theater. This one I rewatched the most. Chapter 2 I barely rewatch, because I'm not a big fan of it. Of course, Hereditary. And, I mean, Ari Aster's best movies. I mean, Ari Aster's 2 horror movies, Hereditary and Midsommar on Blu-ray. I've seen both these in the theaters. I actually saw Hereditary 2 times in the theaters. I saw this one in theaters opening night. Kind of really like Ari Aster. I kind of like to really see what he does, really. Like, although I find this one the better movie, Midsommar is actually pretty good. It was definitely a better horror way better Wicker remake than the actual crap Wicker Man remake we got. If you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, compared to horror, I find this one better. Midsommar kind of gets way too soft at times, but yeah. Both excellent movies. The Mist, aka the Collector's Edition, the one that has the black and white cut that Frank Darabont loves the most. From the same guy who directed films like The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. Both excellent masterpieces, 2 of my favorite movies of all time. This film probably did something different and actually changed the ending, and Stephen King even loved the changed ending. Like, this has one of the most depressing endings in history. I like the black and white cut the most. The color version's pretty good, but the black and white cut is easily one of the best. And Candyman, the first one. I absolutely love this movie. It's scary, it's violent. Even, like, it's the only good movie in the series, but thankfully we're getting a new sequel. It's gonna edit out all the other bad sequels, kind of like what Halloween 2018 did, so I can't wait to see that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 2003 remake, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning. Now, I know some people don't really like this remake, but I think this remake's just okay, but Texas Chainsaw the Beginning I find way better, and I kind of wish this were the 2003 remake, because they're kind of really the same. I mean, this one just has different characters, and just shows Leatherface being born. I wouldn't really call this a prequel, per se. It barely seems to feel like a prequel. Kind of just an alternate version of 2003 film. I prefer this one the most, honestly. And of course, I've got the Butterfly Effect trilogy. This one's the only good movie. Butterfly Effect 2 and Butterfly Effect 3 are pure shit. I gotta say, what's worse is this one's an After Dark Horror Fest film. The company behind Craptivity. Yeah, that's almost. This one isn't, but this one is freaking worse. If you want to even watch this series, guys, just watch the first one. And 28 days later, and 28 weeks later. Both excellent movies, directed by Danny Boyle. They're very good. They're very well made, and especially how the zombies are well done. And although I prefer 28 Days Later more, 28 Weeks Later gets a little too 28 Weeks Later is kind of generic, really, but it's still a good sequel for what it is, but this one's still the better movie. But yeah, they're both great films, and kind of wish we still got a third one. And Zombieland. I actually am a pretty big fan of this film. I did see Zombieland Double Tap in theaters opening night, and it was just okay, really. I still prefer this movie most. I don't think I'll really buy Zombieland Double Tap or add it to my collection. The Shining and Doctor Sleep. Both excellent horror films. This is one of the few good horror sequels, and this one's the best horror movie ever made. Like, it really is. I mean, when I first saw it, I started saw this movie in 11th grade, been a big fan of it ever since, considered it a phenomenal film. This movie I saw in theaters opening night, still a wonderful sequel. Sure, it's not as good as The Shining, per se, but this is still a very good sequel, a good way to continue the series, and I got 2 Chucky sequels. Curse of Chucky, 2013, and 2017's big piece of shit, Call of Chucky. Now, Curse of Chucky, I thought, was a pretty good way for the series to come back to the horror routes, and I kind of wish this were the only modern sequel we got. For the unrated version, kind of provided a good way to end the series, and then of course you got Cult of Chucky. Cult of Chucky, I thought, was a real piece of shit. I rewatched it first watched it on Netflix, hated it when it came to Netflix opening night. Then got the movie on DVD, rewatched it, disliked it even more. Yeah. 30 Days of Night, very excellent vampire movie. There's a better way to portray vampires than that Twilight garbage. I mean, the vampires even speak their own language. They come out at nights, and I will review this movie eventually, but yeah, but other than that, a very excellent, phenomenal vampire movie. So, The Descent, another one of my favorite horror films. I just love this movie. Watch, it's pure claustrophobic, the crawlers are terrifying, and a very realistic situation. And yes, if you're wondering about The Descent Part 2, I have seen The Descent Part 2, and I thought that one was total garbage, so I did not buy it, and I hope I never find it, because it's never going to my collection. This movie should have just stayed one movie, and one movie alone. Then My Bloody Valentine, 3D. Okay, this movie rocks. Okay, I'm going too far with that. This movie's just okay, really. I haven't seen the original, I've only seen this version, but this is just an okay horror film for what it is. I mean, it's not a bad remake, per se. Say, a lot of people don't really consider this a bad remake, but it's not really a good movie either. I mean, it comes with a 3D version, but it's still not really, fine movie. And now you got more other stuff I've got. I've got Annabelle Creation. The only good Conjuring spin-off, I've got to say. Got A Horrible Way to Die. I actually haven't really watched this movie yet, but I have no idea how it is. I just have to see how it is when I am eventually watch. I know it's directed by Adam Wingard, so we'll just see how it is. The whole Nightmare on Elm Street Blu-ray collection, containing all films up to New Nightmare. I once did own the 2010 remake, guys, but you all know I hate it, so I threw it in the garbage. Friday the 13th, 2009 remake. Actually, well, if there's one good movie of this version, it's the extended killer cut. That's the version you should watch if you see this movie. The theatrical cut is rarely even good. I gotta say, the extended cut is way better. The whole Alien and Alien series box sets. up to Alien, all 4 Alien movies, both Predator 2, and both Alien vs. Predator movies. So, y'all know, Alien, Aliens, oh, I already showed that one. I think I put it in wrong. My bad. Alright, there we go. Alien 3. Kind of wish it were the David Fincher cut with this version. The one that he actually prefers. Alien Resurrection, which sucks. Although not as sucky as the 2 other horror ones I'm going to get to. And then for the 2 Predators. Okay, I'm just going to do this. Predator, Predator 2. Predator I love the most. Predator 2 has its moments. I think it's the best of the follow-ups, but that's not really saying much. I have seen Predators from 2010. I think that one's pretty decent. It's okay at best. Then you got and then you got the 2 piece of shit crossovers. Alien vs. Predator 1, AVP Requiem, which is an absolute garbage fest. I have seen, yeah, I get this one does suck, but I mean, at least despite the PG-13 rating, it's still an Alien movie. This one is neither. It's so dark as shit. No, not as in tone. I mean as in bad fucking lighting. Oh my god. It's not barely even an Alien or Predator movie. It's an absolute disgrace. Really. And then of course I also got that also piece of shit 2018 movie, Predator movie, The Predator. I saw this movie in the theaters. I hated the fuck out of it. I've only bought this because I'm a collector. So I gotta own every Alien movie. But every Alien or Predator movie. But honestly, I really hope they can make a 5th Predator so that this movie can go in the garbage where it belongs. Now, what I also own the 2 Alien prequels, Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Saw both of these in the theaters, and I actually think they're pretty good movies. They actually saved the Alien franchise. Then, Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 remake. Very great remake, the 2nd best horror remake of all time. The Lighthouse, I still need to rewatch this. I saw this in the theaters last time, and I haven't re-seen it since, but I am going to rewatch it, hopefully, when I get the chance. Wolf Creek. Only seen this once, but I thought it was a pretty great movie for what it was. I mean, the other film, the second one, isn't really good. So, yeah. Buried 2010, kind of a thriller really, but it's kind of horror-like. I mean, it's a very underappreciated movie. Probably one of Ryan Reynolds' best performances. Then I got Friday vs. Jason on Blu-ray. A fun movie from start to finish. Love the hell out of this movie. A lot. Like, it's a good turn-off-your-brain horror film. You're not supposed to take this movie seriously. And I got the whole Record box set, which contains all 4 of the movies. Record 1, Record 2, great movies. Record 3, absolute shit. And Record 4. Apocalypse has its moments, but very corny. Alright, that's it for part 1. Now stay tuned for part 2. Okay, so, welcome back to part 2 of this. Now that I've taken care of that, let's go on with part 2 of this. So, for part 2, I've got the 1990 miniseries of it, the one with Tim Curry. I mean, the part 1, like with the new films, part 1 is okay. I mean, part 1 is good. Part 2 is just really, but this part 2 is much worse than the part 2 we got in 2019. Got Drag Me to Hell, another one of Sam Raimi's great movies. I mean, it's good Sam Raimi returned to horror movie. Definitely one of the best filmmakers of all time. Even got Mother, Darren Aronofsky film. Saw this in theaters opening nights. I mean, it sure made me nauseous a little bit, but that's what I absolutely loved about it. I absolutely enjoyed this movie, but screw what most people say. I thought this movie was pretty good. A little underappreciated at times. The Paranormal Activity movies. Man, okay, I hate this series, but first one was just okay. Everything else just sucks. That's The Grudge and The Grudge 2. Grudge was just okay for what it was, but Grudge 2 was just absolute garbage. I didn't even go near the rest. Now I own The Conjuring 2. One of the horror sequels that's even better than the first one. Gotta say. Because, once again, it's another James Wan movie. Anything he does always rocks. I've got The Amityville Horror 2005. Another terrific movie. Gotta say, I mean, it's a pretty good remake for what it is. I kind of like this version over the original because this one actually shows the important stuff we just need to know. People seem to crap on this one way too much, but it's the best of the Platinum Dunes remakes, but compared to all the others, it's not even saying much. The Ring 2002, the only good J-horror remake. Kind of wish they just kept it one movie. Ring 2 was terrible. Ring's 2017 was worse. But, however, this one's one of the few good horror remakes and a few good horror movies of the 2000s. And now the Firefly Family Trilogy. House of 1000 Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and the third installment I do not like. Now, these are both really good horror films of the 2000s. I mean, there's definitely Rob Zombie's only two good movies. I mean, especially this one. Devil's Rejects I prefer. House of 1000 Corpses gets way too campy and goofy at times, but they're both excellent horror movies. Saw this movie once it came out on DVD. Did not like it at all, but it was better than some of his previous films, so that was something. It was better than most of Rob Zombie's previous work he did before this. We got High Tension, Alexander Aha's directional debut. This and Hills Have Eyes are probably his two best horror movies, really. This one's really outright disturbing. Disturbing, very grisly, very gross even. Like, I actually love that, and a very good plot twist, too. And I've got the two of the Hostel movies. Hostel and Hostel Part 2. The two other good Eli Roth films. Well, technically mostly this one. Mostly this one's good. I mean, they've got a very clever concept, this torture ring in Slovakia. I mean, I know a few other subscribers of mine are big fans of this movie. Really, I mostly am too. I mean, I still prefer this one better. Hostel 2 gets a little too comedic and silly at times, but they're still pretty excellent horror films, gotta say. But this one's definitely the better film. And then I've got a film you've heard me crap talked numerous times. Yeah, you all know the name of it. It's Craptivity. Do I even need to say the title of this even more? I mean, I just watched the movie and roast how bad it is usually whenever I pop it in. I mean, I look at this more of a comedy and a drinking game movie than a horror film. But it's an obvious Hostel ripoff, because then again, it's by After Dark Films, company that makes those shit horror fest movies that you would find on a sci-fi channel. Oh yeah. Trick or Treat, an excellent anthology horror film. I watch this every Halloween, and it's the tradition to watch this every Halloween. I even dressed up as Sam from Trick or Treat last Halloween, you probably all saw. Then, The Invisible Man. Okay, this was actually directed by one of the guys who helped with Saw Lay One Out. So, I haven't rewatched this one in a long time, but I thought it was a pretty decent film. I mean, it is from Lay One Out. directed by Leigh Whannell, one of the guys from Saw. So yeah, if it's and from anybody involved with Saw, I'll watch it. A Quiet Place. Saw this movie in the theaters, loved it. Still waiting for the sequel to come out. And of course, here's a bonus one. The Wicker Man, the 1973 original, and the terribly bad Nicolas Cage remake. However, watch this movie as a comedy, you'll love it. Watch it as a horror film, you'll hate it. And for a horror movie, watch this version instead. Please. Because it's actually good. And actually well directed. Okay. There we go. And now I've got, let's see if I can show these all at once. Alright. And I've got the whole Saw collection. First one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, and seventh. So, yeah, I am a big Saw fan. Well, mostly just the first three guys. The rest I could care less about, but these are still really good horror movies. Per se, I mean, the rest of the series is just torture porn beating a dead horse. Everything else after that. Guess so, and then of course I own all 4 of the Hatchet movies. Hatchet, Hatchet 2, an even better sequel. Hatchet 3, not as good as the first 2, but still a fun sequel nonetheless. And Victor Crowley, a film I hate. Yeah, kind of wish all these got a worldwide release. They're not even that graphic. The MPA just seems to love to whine about them, not so much. But these movies are why I love Adam Green as a filmmaker. He's a fun filmmaker. His films are never taken seriously. That's what I absolutely adore about him. As well. And then, of course, another thing, I own all 4 of the Evil Deads. Evil Dead, the first one. Evil Dead 2, my favorite horror sequel of all time. Army of Darkness, not really a horror movie, but still a masterpiece nonetheless. And Evil Dead, the 2013 remake, or reboot. Don't really like it as much as the original, but still a good movie nonetheless, no matter what people say about it. And the final DVDs I'm going to show. Oh look, I did find the first one the whole time, I never even knew it. Okay. Get Out. Didn't really get to see this one in theaters, but I did watch this movie on DVD during Wisdom Teeth Recovery. Absolutely phenomenal movie. Yes, no offense to those who hate it. And of course, finally, to finish it off, the Final Destinations. Final Destination 1 to 3. The Final Destination 4, which sucks. Final Destination 5. Definitely, probably the only good of the whole series, really. And that's it for my horror DVDs. That'll be it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. If you'd like to see more, then don't forget to like and subscribe to Movie Lover 120.